I like to start these episodes with like a shared experience, if I have one, with the judge that I'm talking to. Any idea which one I'm going to bring up with you?
The 37-second.
37-second detective run. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That is exactly it. And in all fairness, we've talked about this, right? Murphy alerted out of bounds. I called it. It wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
Totally my fault. But I want to tell you that was actually a learning experience for me, because that day I had another really short one. And that was my first detective run, by the way, Patrice, under you, that 37-second run.
Oh, no.
And I had another really short one, like, that was over in like less than a minute and a half that same weekend. And I decided, and this kind of goes against common logic, I decided in detective from now on out, unless I'm absolutely sure, I'm not going to call it, because I would rather get the search time in than be done that quickly, which, kind of comes with trade-offs, right? Because like if the dog is right, I walk away, maybe he doesn't re-alert, or I, damage our relationship a little bit, but I was willing to accept that because I felt that we needed that prolonged search time. And I've stopped that because it doesn't serve us the same way. But I bring this story up because you have told me you learned more from your NQs than you do your Qs. And that was one of the things I learned from you in one of my NQs. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Oh, that's nice of you to say.
Yeah. This is Alert Scent Work. I'm Scott, Murphy and Kiva's dad, and I'm talking with Patrice Dodd, who is Carlin and Grit's mom. She's an AKC Scent Work judge, a competitor, and one of the most thoughtful writers in the sport. I say that because I discovered your blog, and it's just so beautiful and goes back so far of your reflections of a lot of your runs and your lessons learned. So I wanted to start with this idea of that you've learned more from your NQs than your Qs, and I think many of us probably could say that. What are a couple of those important NQ lessons that really stuck with you that you carry forward to this day?
Most recently it has been to pay attention.
Okay.
And that turns out to be harder than I realized at first. If somebody had told me that, I would think, oh, yeah. But it's hard to pay attention for 10 minutes and not lose the track, to get distracted by something. So, for example, the second most recent detective that Grits and I did really well in but did not cue was that I lost my attention at the very end. I turned my back on my dog and I said finish to the judge as Grits was alerting on the last hide.
Oh, no.
And I lost my attention. I stopped paying attention to my dog. And another example of that was a retreat I went to, a scent work retreat I went to. And I was very worried about Grits wanting to go swimming. And the search was right next to a pond. And I thought that she was straining to get to the pond because I was worried about the pond. But all the people watching me said, no, she was trying to get to the hide up in the tree.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So it was attention.
Yeah, paying attention, you're right. Like in a detective search, what are all the things you have to pay attention to? You have to pay attention to your dog, as your story outlined. You have to pay attention to where you've been. You have to pay attention if there was some interest shown somewhere and you want to go back to that place. What are some other things you have to pay attention to? Because that is so true. Paying attention is so critical.
Well, other things are like, don't trip over the rock that's in the middle of the exterior, Don't hit your head on the door of the hut that you're going to go into. I mean, it's like there's a lot of physical challenges for the person. Don't get your legs wrapped up in the leash. Oh, I don't know about any of those personally. Those are all just, speculation.
You just heard in speculation.
Yeah, right.
One of the things that you said in your blog that I loved is that, so first of all, you're somebody who doesn't like to fail. I got the impression from reading your blog. But you say AKC Scent Work has taught you that failure is survivable and it can even be fun. So, it's not something most of us enjoy, but how did you end up at that mindset that failure is survivable and it can be fun? Because that's the extra step I don't think most of us take.
Well, I think I was very lucky in my first detective dog. He has been a very, very talented dog, and so I was able to watch him during all of my detective searches, both the Qs and the NQs, and he was having an absolute blast. And that was so fun for me to watch him have such a good time that it just always was fun, regardless of whether I queued or I didn't queue. I mean, of course, I want to pass, but it was just watching him having so much fun.
Right. And I think I wanna dive just briefly deeper into what having fun means because in a way, you have to know what to look for and what to experience in order to achieve this idea of having fun, and it sounds like it's watching your dog work, it's watching your dog solve the puzzles, it's watching your dog enjoying the thing. Are there other things you look for that, kinda define fun for you as you do it?
It's mostly that. It's mostly those things you mentioned. And when things are going really well, and by well, I mean my attitude. When my attitude is really good, it's because I'm in the moment. And I will say that the scent work and before that hunt tests were are pretty much the only places in life where I actually am in the moment most of the time.
Mm, yeah.
And it's almost all the rest of the time I'm distracted by something. Something has to get done, or I have to be somewhere, or somebody needs something, or something. And so those environments, the hunt tests and the detective runs, they last long enough that I have time to get into the moment and stay there for a while.
Yeah.
And that's very rewarding for me.
It is. It's just like you get to shut down all the other background apps that are always nagging at you, and you
Yeah,
just concentrate on one thing, which in life, how often do we get to actually do that? Not very often. That's
not
cool.
very
I like
often.
that. Yeah. I wanna know your origin story. How did scent work first find you? You alluded to, you were AKC you competed in AKC hunt tests
Mhm.
first. Was there anything in between that and scent work? What's your origin story?
I've dabbled in some other things. I've done a little confirmation, I've done a little obedience, I've done some rally. I had a water spaniel that got up to the highest levels of. But when we lived in Oregon, and when we lived to move to Idaho, I was looking for my people. And the other thing is that Carlin is, dog reactive. So, there's very few venues that I can take him into. Like, he can't do obedience and rally because he's too reactive to the other dogs. I heard about scent work, and I understood that when dogs are working, they're alone in the search area. There's not other dogs. So I thought that might be a good venue for him to try. And my instructor told me that it would also help him with his reactivity. So, we decided to give it a try. And the first several classes, I was in one corner by myself and everybody else was in the other corner. And we were just observing the fact that, yeah, there's other dogs over there. You don't have to worry about them. They're fine. And gradually we got integrated more into the class. And, he has not lost his reactivity, but particularly in scent work venues, when he knows he has this job to do, he's able to focus on the job and not worry so much about the dogs.
Yeah.
So that has been a tremendous boon for both of us that we can go out and do something together.
Sounds like, Carlin's in the moment too when it comes to scent work, living
Yeah.
in the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is, and in fact, there is one amazing story which we once succeeded in a detective search where there was a car that drove through the search area and then a truck backed right up to the search area with its beepers beeping. A guard dog ran to the fence that was the border of the search area and started barking at him. I mean, all of this disruption, and the judge asked me, Do you want to stop and start over?" And I said, "No, no, he's in the moment, we're gonna keep going." So we kept going, and it turned out that the truck or the car, one of the 2, had crushed one of the hides that was in the gravel. I mean, had crushed it and moved it around in there and just but, he found everything, and I called finish, and we queued. It was the most I mean, there are people, who have told me that they will never forget that search. We were both in the moment, we were doing it.
And what a long way you came from sitting in the corner of your first scent work lessons, just trying to deal with the dogs in the room to all that craziness. That is so cool.
Yeah,
So it really
yeah.
scent work has made a difference. Yeah, that's so awesome. You got into scent work because you had a reactive dog and it was a sport that was conducive to that, and also because it would help your dog with the reactivity. And then you became a judge. So that means something else must be going on that sucked you in even deeper. What is it that really hooked you and made you want to become a judge?
It seemed that just seemed like the next blessed place to learn about how dogs do this, to watch a whole bunch of other dogs do this because Carlin is he's so fast. We finished a detective search in 3 minutes once. I mean, back in his prime. And I knew other dogs weren't operating like he operates, and I just wanted to see how they would do that, and I had spent a lot of time timing for judges, so I had a opportunity to watch a lot of dogs, but then that also gave me the opportunity to talk to a lot of judges. I think that was how it started, but then, the actual activity of judging is so much more demanding. Makes it sound negative, and I don't mean it that way, but
Mhm.
I it's so much more demanding than running a dog, and I think I had no clue about that. So, and if I had known about it, I might have been more intimidated, but at the time, it just seemed like, well, this just seems like the next thing to do.
So what are some of the things that you feel are demanding about being a judge? What are those things that you carry into a search when you're setting it for contestants?
Well, I want people to succeed, uh, and I also want it to be appropriate to the level that they're running, and sometimes those 2 things are in conflict, for individual dogs. They're not ready for it or their handler's off that day or, something. And those 2 things, there's always the urge to make it easy so that they'll succeed, but I don't wanna make it easy because if I do that, then it's not appropriate to the level or it's boring for the
Mhm.
competitors, and I don't want that either. I spend, a bunch of time thinking about that when I'm staring at a search area. How can I make it doable? I want people to have some success. I don't want another 37-second search.
Well, not your fault again. So, I mean, you made that area out of bounds, like, what else can you do? You can't hold Scott's hand all the time.
Gritch and I have had a couple of 30-second searches too, so it's that balance, and also I can be a perfectionist, and so I want everything to be perfect, and that's never gonna happen. I think that's the main it's more like a mental challenge for me, how can I balance all of those things?
What I'm really hearing is, like, how what's the range that is appropriate in a particular level that gives people who are prepared for that level an opportunity, but maybe challenges them a little bit in a way that's still doable? Like, that's probably a tough range to hit sometimes.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but I was very, very happy with my last detective search that I set. It was probably the first one that I was truly happy with, and I've always generally criticized myself after most of them, but this one I was really happy with, and it was a kind of a very oddly shaped space, and there was my interior area was little teeny tiny thing, um, and so I decided that I would set, mostly converging odor problems, um, and one inaccessible, but I didn't do anything really high. I didn't do anything in the ground. And I understand I'm known for doing ground hides. I found that out last weekend.
I didn't know
I
that.
didn't
Well,
know
that's good to
I
know.
didn't
That's
know
good to
that.
know. That was your blind spot.
Yeah, so they were converging odor problems, and it was such a pleasure to watch the dogs work those and figure those out. I mean, you could actually see the light bulb go on over the both the dogs and the handlers' heads. "Oh, there's another odor here." You know?
Right. Yeah.
It was so, and they weren't outrageous, I didn't set them 2 feet apart, but they were definitely the odors were definitely converging, and it was, I loved that search. I
Yeah.
and I actually got some compliments on it, which is I don't know about other judges, but it's fairly rare for me to get compliments on my searches. I mean, people will say, "Oh, I had fun," but I rarely get the, "I really loved how that converging odor problem worked," or, "I really had a great time with that."
So when somebody says like a fun search, it sounds like what makes a fun search for you to design and watch is what just happened in that detective, where it was problems that were achievable, but yet you got to watch light bulbs pop on above dogs' heads and handlers
Yeah.
because it was just I wouldn't say just a little out of their reach, but it was definitely a challenge. I love that.
It was
Well,
a challenge. Yeah.
yeah. Congratulations on setting something that you're proud of.
Yeah, yeah, it was
Yeah, I don't know how often that happens for a lot of judges. So, that's so cool. I wanna take advantage of the fact that you've seen so many teams compete as a judge and ask a couple questions around that that might be able to help listeners improve themselves. What is it that you see teams do that you're like, "Yeah, actually, you guys are onto something. You're doing a really good job." What do you see teams do well that we could all learn from?
paying attention, noticing where the dog showed some interest. I've decided it's the hardest thing to pay, like I said before, but I think that's true. Where did they pay attention but didn't alert? And go, oh, another one is the people who realize that they have to go both directions. So, like in containers, the teams who tend to do really well for the most part are the ones who will go around both directions because the dog will find it, be more likely to find it. Um, of course, if you're in a container search where you know how many there are and you found everything, well, then you don't need to go around the other way.
Right.
But going around the other way often leads to success.
Yeah.
Um,
Better than just going around the same way twice.
yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, that's where I was going.
Got it.
Better than going
Yeah.
around the same way
Yeah.
twice. Yeah, people who give their dogs time, they don't rush them away from something. I mean, and if you have learned how to tell the difference between distraction behavior and odor behavior, and you're not seeing distraction behavior, well, then the dog is trying to work something out. And sometimes they're trying to work something out in ways that don't make sense to a visual person like a handler,
Right. Yes. Yeah. And then we do things like, "Keep searching. Are you looking? Find it." Like, we start nagging them a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
And they are
Yeah,
working.
they're working. Yeah, you
Yeah.
just need to give them a little time.
Yeah.
And, the seconds are ticking, but for the most part, that is a thing I do when I'm doing designing searches, is I try to make sure they have enough time. I don't try to cut it short. Um, and if I think they need 5 minutes in an excellent search, I'll give them 5 minutes. Even though that's the longest allowed time in an exterior, for example. So take it.
Yeah, take that time. Use the few extra seconds. It could make the difference between a Q and an NQ, giving your
Yeah.
dog a chance to work that puzzle out. Because that's a big part of it too. I think when I first started, your dog just most dogs will kind of immediately run right to the hide, right? It's pretty simple. And when you move up in levels, those puzzles become more difficult, and it's easy for us to go, "Oh, I don't know why it's so much harder for my dog," because we don't realize maybe when we're new that those puzzles are more difficult, and sometimes it takes them a while to figure it out. Like, I struggled with buried for a while because water puzzles, and I would call alert about 2 or 3 seconds too early while my dog was still trying to figure out what's going on here because maybe odor was, pooling on a cold water container.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, giving your dog a chance to work can make a huge difference, and a lot of times it's not that much extra time, it's just a few
Yeah.
seconds.
Well,
Yeah.
and buried in containers is a great example. Sometimes the dogs will go over, especially if it's in a small space. and there's furnitures or there's walls or something, they'll go over and sniff the furniture, and go sniff the walls, and they'll go and they're not obviously sniffing on a container. That doesn't mean that they're not searching the containers. That means they've found something. They found some odor, or they found something of interest that they need to follow before they can come back and follow it back to the container.
It's more evidence.
Oh, and so I have seen people who will let their dog go over and sniff that furniture rather than jerking them back to say, "No, no, sniff this, sniff this, sniff this." And I love that when I see people letting their dogs do the work.
And sometimes, in that same vein, they're getting odor information off the distractors, and that can be really
Exactly.
hard not to wanna pull your dog off that distractor because you immediately assume they're going to that distractor because 'cause they're interested in it, but I've seen many dogs get information off distractors, and if you can just let them do that, again, give them the 2 or 3 seconds, then you can tell is if it's the distractor or if it was something else because 'cause they'll move, back onto working if it's actually they're getting information off of it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, sometimes 2 or 3 seconds can make a huge difference. One of the things you talked about in your blog was reading Carlin when Carlin is done, or just your dog when your dog is done. And this time that judges will say something to you, and I think we've all had this happen to us, like, "Your dog's been done for a while," after you call finish, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I
Yes.
personally do you first of all, just a yes or no, do you say that to contestants? Do you tell them that their dog's been done for a while now? Do you say that?
Um, no.
Okay.
Not
'Cause
generally.
yeah, because that's a little
No.
unfair. First of all, the judge knows where all the hides were. And maybe they're seeing this. So it took me a while, and I think you went through the same journey, and I want to talk to you about it. This idea of your dog saying, I'm done, and you calling finish, and then getting a no. Well, but my dog was telling me my dog was done. And it took me a while to realize, well, my dog's just done in this area.
Yeah.
Maybe we didn't cover our search area, right? So just because your dog says I'm done doesn't mean they're done with the search. It means they're done in this area. And then you as a handler have to make sure you're covering your area and getting your dog to, those productive areas. And did you miss one? You kind of went through
Exactly.
that same journey, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. And the other part of that is, sometimes Carlin would go over to something of interest. Because I think, being a hunting dog, he knows where birds are likely to hide. They're more likely to be in a bush than they are in flat grass, and he knows that. So he'll go to the bushes, right? It's the same thing as scent work. He knows there's way more likely to be a hide, say, on a chair than, in the middle of a concrete floor with no cracks. So he'll ignore the floor and go over to the chairs. So he knows that. So we've been in searches where he's actually finished, but there's this one other chair that looks interesting. So he'll go over to the chair, sniff it, and then sit and look at me and tell me he's done. So the biggest puzzle for the longest time was, is that an alert sit or is that an I'm done sit? It was it that has been the challenge with one of the challenges with Carlin, and finally later in his career, he would, not do that quite so much, but early on, he would, and the reason he sat was that I taught him a sit indication, and I taught him a sit indication because he likes to retrieve things, including the hides. So, I would teach him a sit indication so that it would pull his mouth away from the hide, the sit. So, that's why he has a sit indication. And so the only time that backfired then is when he would sit next to something where a hide could logically be.
Right.
And, so I, worked my way into that problem all by myself.
Right, right. It was one of the consequences of having a sit alert
Yeah.
for your particular dog, yeah. So how do you differentiate then? How do you know the difference?
Partly it's the look on his face. Um,
Okay.
it's quite subtle, and you're not the first person to ask me that question. Um, Sometimes he will sit and then leave, and then that's pretty obvious. Um, One time, this is a funny story, and I did not see this until I watched the video. somebody was taking a video for me, and, he was done, and he sat next to the last hide. But one of the things we do is we have a little celebration when we're done and we get a yes. I'll raise my arms up and say, something happy, and then he'll do a leap. He'll leap up into the air. And at this particular, detective trial, he was done, and I wasn't sure we were really done, and so he did this little leap.
Wow.
And then and I walked away, and I was telling him, "Let's go look over here," and he did this another leap.
Uh-huh.
And I was trying to get him to come with me. "Come on, we gotta go look over there," and he did this 3rd leap. And so then I said, "Okay, I guess we're done," and it turned out we were right, and I did the
That's funny.
celebration, and he did a 4th leap. But I had not seen him ever do that before or since,
Yeah. Those
those little
moments are
leaps.
great. Yeah, that he was
Yeah,
communicating. He was totally communicating to you, "Hey, we're done. Let's celebrate now."
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Uh, Dogs are the greatest. I wanna ask you, so Carlin has 20 detective cues now? Did you got
Yeah,
20, right?
yeah.
And in your blog, you said maybe as many NQs as well. So you've had a lot of experience at this level. You've already talked about just paying attention
Uh-uh.
is a major, skill for scent work in general. Do you have advice that you would give somebody getting ready for their first detective run so they could skip some of those hard lessons? Paying attention is definitely one of them. Is there something else you can think of?
I know you have heard other judges tell you the same thing, and that is to try to breathe.
Okay.
I I found myself holding my breath a lot, and that is not good for the brain to operate.
It's not gonna help you pay attention when you're holding your breath.
Yeah, um, and I think part of the other one too is and I wish this were easy to do, is to not care about passing. To try to just have fun with your dog and not care. So, for example, I have seen people, and I have done this too, be reluctant to call a hide twice because, they know it's a fault. But sometimes you think you've called something when you really haven't. And I did this last weekend, and I thought, "Okay, I'll call it twice." I said that out loud, and then I called it. I said, "Alert," and she said, "Yes." And I
Oh.
realized, "Oh, I hadn't called it."
Oh, wow. Wow,
So,
yeah,
um, just call it. It
yeah.
doesn't matter how many times you've called it.
For me, it's not the fault, it's my ego. I don't wanna be the guy that it appears like he can't remember stuff, you know?
Well, that is a skill, remembering where you've been.
Yeah, it
Um,
is, and what you
that's
found.
that's a skill. I mean, and you start learning that skill in the upper levels of buried, right? Because they can put the buried in any arrangement. Um, and you have to start paying attention to which and they all the tubs look alike. So, which ones did I call?
Okay, so practice that in those upper levels of buried, figure out what your routine's gonna be. Like, my routine is I have to say it out loud, and I have to
Yeah.
say, "Alright," I have to say, "Threshold water, left-hand side," or, you know,
Yeah.
"Far end, sand, right-hand side," or, I have to give it a geographic location as best I can, and, so, yeah, that's my trick, but everybody has to have their own trick. We're running close to having this thing be, running out of time here, and I've got so many more questions. So we need to do a part two sometime if you're having
Oh,
fun.
I'd love to.
I want to get to 7 questions, but I want to ask one last thing. So every dog has their thing, and when I was reading your blog, it seems like Carlin's is thresholds. Carlin likes to blow by thresholds.
He does.
Um, yep. So every dog has their thing. So I'm trying to more generally think like, how have you learned to work with the threshold issue? Is that something you learned? I'm never going to be able to train this dog to go through a threshold slowly, so we're just always going to have to come back. Or how have you dealt with your dog's thing?
I am never gonna be able to train this dog to slow down at thresholds.
You've tried.
And honestly, I have tried. I have instructors who have tried to help me with that. I've tried. It's just never gonna happen. It's like, Yeah, it's just never gonna happen. So what I do then is when we do the walkthrough, which is why I like in-person walkthroughs. Um, when we do the walkthrough, I like to look at the space and say to myself, "Okay, do we have a long, skinny space? If we have a long, skinny space, and that means that I'm not gonna be able to get back to the beginning before I get to the end, I just circle back right there and do the beginning." You know, I don't even let him go into the area very far. We just and I do it on leash. I always do it on leash. I think there's been very few times when I've taken him let him off leash. And I just make sure that we do that space again, and sometimes we'll even go back out the start line and go back through it again, just to make sure that we do that start line. If I have a square space, a fairly small square space, say, for example, and I know that we'll be able to get through the whole area and I can come back to the threshold, then I'll do it that way. So it really depends on what space we have.
Yeah. The space, and it also sounds like if you have the ability, you don't wanna kill Carlin's momentum. You don't wanna always come back to that threshold if it's a space you can get around to, because that's kind of what I've learned is sometimes we wanna do something as handlers, but our dog wants to do something else, and you just kinda gotta love them, because if you override at that moment, you might kill the momentum or the trust in that search or something like that. Is that your thinking there?
Yeah, it is, and the reason for that, of course, is the dog is the star of the show. I am just the stage manager, and so I have to let him do what he wants to do.
My analogy for that is I'm the producer of the talk show. The talk show host is the star. I am there to support and make sure the star looks as good as they can with as minimal input as possible. That's what I
Right.
try to do.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Yeah.
All right. This has been so much fun. Let's go to 7 questions. You've listened to episodes apparently. Oh, by the way, I have to chuckle. I asked you to be on the podcast at first and you kind of hesitated. And then you reached out 2 or 3 weeks later and you said, I will be on the podcast after I got some episodes out, because I think I asked you before I even had my first episode out.
You did, uh-huh.
Yeah. So you had to listen before you could make the decision. What were you so scared I was going to do?
I wasn't scared. I'm careful.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's a part of how I judge and how I compete. And that's, for example, why I spent so much time timing for other judges before I started to become a judge. I wanted to see what it was really like.
What won you over? What made you decide, all right, I feel okay?
Everybody sounded like they were having fun.
Okay, good. So just
Yeah,
like scent work, being on this it needs to be about having fun.
yeah, yeah.
Perfect. All right, let's have fun with 7 questions. Here we go. I got 7 questions, just looking for the first answer that comes to the top of your head, 1 or 2 sentences each. If I want you to expand, I'll ask you to expand. So here we go. What do you think competitors say about your searches? Or at least what do you hope they say? Those are 2 different questions, really.
Well, like every other judge, that they were fun and that they were fair. I think fair is very important to me as a general principle in life.
Got it.
Yeah.
What's your dog's favorite reward after a great search? And get specific.
Oh, okay, they're different. So Carlin's favorite reward is the jumping up and the celebration. That's his favorite thing. He can't do it so much anymore because he's old now, but he does the best he can with a little celebration. That's his favorite thing, and then we run back to the car. If we can run, we run back to the car. Grits is more food.
Is there a particular treat that Grits gets?
No, she just well, chicken, roast chicken. Yeah.
That sounds like a pretty good treat. What's one thing that you wish competitors knew about being a judge?
It's an opportunity to learn a lot, and it's like getting a crash course and stuff. It's mentally challenging, but you learn a lot.
Not as easy as I think people think.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
It's not just slapping hides out there. There's a little
Exactly.
bit more that goes into it. What's a piece of advice that really stuck with you in your own scent work journey?
To breathe,
Okay.
honestly. I had
All
a
right.
lot of people tell me that. I think because I must have been gasping, I mean, holding my breath and then gasping.
Or turning red or something,
Turning
like
red, yeah, yeah.
veins popping out of your head, who knows? Do you have a signature distractor as a judge?
I do. I have a mimic, so it only comes out in the upper levels. It's a life-size rabbit
Okay. And why that as your signature distractor? What is it that you love about your mimic rabbit?
because it gets the dog's attention, and, I try to use my distractions strategically. I don't put them out there just to test a dog's ability to leave it alone. I place them very carefully for reasons, and, that mimic generally gets the dog's attention, and they wanna go over there and
Oh.
see if it's really a rabbit, and it never is, and then they get their minds back to work, and, "Oh, look, there's a hide."
Hey, look, an odor
Yeah.
plume near this mimic maybe.
Yeah.
That's interesting use of distractors. That's a conversation for another time, I think. I think that's gonna really open people's minds and probably actually it could do more harm than good. Really, like, oh, why did that judge? That's just one more thing for us as competitors to think about. Why did that judge put that distractor there?
I just wanna say I try to do everything I can within the rules to help people.
Got it. All right. That's fair. That's a good place to end that. A couple more questions. What's something about scent work that still surprises or delights you after all these years?
Boy, the searches are never the same. It it's
Yeah.
it's not like, obedience, say, for example, which is always the same.
Yeah.
Scent work searches are always different. And then you think you've got this handled, and then some judge thinks up something really cool that you've never seen before.
And those are fun moments. Those are my favorite moments where your dog gives the alert and you're like, "Could it possibly be?" And you call it and you're right. And a lot of times I'll just giggle after that. I'll just be like, "That was great. I love it." What's the best compliment you've ever gotten at a trial? And that could be as a judge or a competitor. Something that stuck with you.
So this was not a verbal compliment. This was, Carlin was running Master Exterior, I think, for, like, the 2nd time, something like that. And it turned out that somebody had told competitors to stick around to watch him work. And we had an audience, a
Oh,
very
wow.
appreciative audience.
Oh, fun.
And it was I can't even describe to you how proud I was of him and that people would stick around to watch him work.
Yeah, the people showed up to do that
Yeah,
because somebody told them to. That's a lot of
yeah.
fun. That's very gratifying. You're so right. Finally, if your dogs could talk, what would they say about you as a handler?
I think Carlin would say thank you for, for getting me out here and doing this.
Right, it wasn't an easy journey for Carlin. Like, this
No.
is something that could possibly have not happened because of Carlin's reactivity.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome. What would Grits say?
She's a toughie, I gotta say. I think she would say, "Don't worry, mom, I've got this." And she mostly does, it's mostly me. If there's a mistake that's made, it's generally me, unless it's a tuna food distraction.
Then then it's Grits.
Yeah.
It's on Grits at that point. All right. Patrice, thank you so much for this conversation. This was so much fun. I want to tell people that if they want to read more about Patrice's reflections, your blog is called The Cooper Project, and you can find that at Patrice Dodd. That's PatriceDodd.wordpress.com. You can also find Patrice on Facebook and the AKC Judges Directory if you'd like to have Patrice come out and judge your scent work trial.
Also ASCA. Yeah, I'm a ASCA judge too.
And what's ASCA? Help me with that.
Oh, sorry, did I get it wrong? Australian Shepherd Club of America.
Okay, yep. All right, cool. So many cool organizations you can play scent work in.
Yeah, I
And if
know.
you enjoyed, this podcast, please follow or subscribe where you listen. You can visit alertscentwork.com for more information. Patrice, thank you so much. It was so much fun. I'm glad you decided to say yes and come on the show.
Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed it.